She'd come here to clear her head after another 16-hour day as Monroe North's youngest CEO. But nothing could have prepared her for what she heard next. "Can you be my mom for just one day?" The woman turns, smiles politely, until she sees the necklace around the girl's neck, the same red thread and turquoise stone she made for a baby the hospital said never survived. Her world stops. The little girl's father is walking toward them, and the CEO realizes this stranger's child might be hers. She froze when she saw the necklace. Fade to black, beat of silence, then title card. "Can you be my mom for a day?" The Gulfstream touched down at Van Nuys Airport just after sundown, the San Fernando Valley a shimmer of sodium lights and tail lamps stretching toward downtown Los Angeles. Celeste Monroe, 31, CEO of Monroe North Labs, stepped from the car at Grand Park and waved her driver off. No entourage, no cameras, just a woman who had everything and slept beside nothing but unread briefs. Her heels clicked across the plaza. The air smelled faintly of lawn sprinklers and food trucks on Spring Street. She wanted quiet. She wanted proof the city still existed beyond earnings calls and back-to-back investor dinners on Sunset. A small voice reached her from the lit path near the fountain. "Hi." A little girl stood there hugging a stuffed fox with a missing ear. Amara, maybe 5, curls tied back with a mismatched ribbon. The kid lifted her chin like she'd practiced for this. "Can you be my mom for just one day?" Celeste blinked. She tried to smile. "That's a big ask." The girl pointed at a bench. "We could start there." Celeste looked around. Families passing, joggers, a pair of LAPD officers at the corner kiosk. It wasn't dangerous, it was just sudden. "What's your name?" Celeste asked, keeping her voice soft. "Amara," the girl said. "My dad lets me play here while he gets tacos from the truck. He can see me from the line." Celeste nodded toward the food trucks. She could see the stand. She could also see the necklace around Amara's neck. A length of faded red thread, knotted 3 ways with a tiny turquoise teardrop no bigger than a fingernail clipping. Her breath stopped. A pressure rose in her throat. That was impossible. That stone, it wasn't just similar, it was exact. A hairline crack at the edge, a slightly darker vein running diagonally like a lightning streak. Her knees softened. The noise of the park fell away. In a condo safe on the 28th floor of a glass tower in Bunker Hill, Celeste kept a small white box. Inside lay a twin to that turquoise stone, strung on the same red thread, tied with the same triple knot her college roommate had shown her the night before her life had changed. She'd tied 2 that night, one to keep, one to give. She'd only ever given 1. "How long have you had that necklace?" Celeste asked, voice barely there. Amara pinched the stone between her fingers. "Forever." She looked at Celeste carefully, as if searching her face. "You look like the person from my dream." Behind them, a man in a charcoal hoodie got his tacos and turned, scanning for the child. His gaze found Amara, then Celeste. His smile faded. He started toward them, slow, cautious steps. The girl leaned in. "You didn't answer. Can you be my mom, just for today?" Celeste swallowed. The word formed before she could stop it. "Yes." The man stopped a few feet away, the paper bag in his hand crinkling. He took in Celeste's face, her posture, the expensive coat, the way her eyes were locked on that necklace. "Amara," he said, steady but careful. "Time to go." Amara didn't move. "Dad, this is Celeste. She said yes." The man's gaze didn't leave Celeste. "Do you know her?" "No," Celeste said. "But I know that necklace." The man's hand tightened around the bag. For a heartbeat, the whole park seemed to wait. The man lowered the tacos to the bench, reached into his hoodie pocket, and pulled out a folded slip of hospital wristband plastic, the kind newborns wear. It was the exact red thread knot burned into the plastic, sealed under ragged tape. He held it just out of reach. "If you know the necklace," he said, "tell me why this is in my pocket." They sat at the edge of the fountain, mist speckling Celeste's sleeves. The man introduced himself as Deshaun Carter, a maintenance lead at a midtown high-rise off Walshire. He kept Amara between them, reflexively protective. Deshaun set the wristband on the bench. The letters were smudged, but the shape of the thread mattered more than the faded ink. Celeste stared. Her palms were cold. "How did you get that?" she asked. Deshaun shrugged once. "Same way I got the kid. Somebody wanted to make sure she had a chance." He unfolded a worn sticky note, the paper thin and soft from too many thumbprints. 4 words in black ink, block letters. "If found, choose love." Celeste's stomach turned to ice. That line was hers, scribbled from a panic-lit hallway at St. Gabriel Medical Center the night she was wheeled through double doors. The night administrators told her a legal team would handle everything. She had tucked that note into a blanket. She had been told it was naive, sentimental, pointless. "Where did this come from?" she asked. Deshaun's jaw worked. "Front stoop of Holy Trinity Safe Haven in Echo Park, 5 years ago. Night shift nurse called her Ruth met me there. She said there was a storm and the power cut out. She said I had a decision to make. She had a clipboard with a stack of papers I didn't understand, but she told me I didn't need to sign anything to hold a baby." Celeste heard the fountain, the taxis on Hill, the crosstown bus brakes releasing on Broadway. She also heard, clear as the day she wrote it, her own voice. "If found, choose love." "Why me? Why are you reacting like you wrote that?" Celeste could say it or run. She'd raised money under lights brighter than this. She'd stood on CNBC and defended a quarterly miss with a smile. None of those moments had required this kind of courage. "I made that necklace. I wrote that note. I was told my baby died." Amara's fox slipped from her grip. She bent to pick it up, and her necklace swung forward, catching a beam from the path light. The stone flashed, vein and crack and all. Deshaun's face didn't soften. If anything, something like anger flickered behind his eyes. Anger without a target. The kind that grows when everyone in charge says they're helping. "Why would someone tell you that?" "Ask my board. Ask our legal counsel. Ask my stepmother." "Names." "Lydia Crane, chair of the board." They stared at each other through a narrow, uncomfortable distance. Deshaun looked at the sticky note again, then slid it back into his hoodie with the wristband. "Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Scout Coffee on Main, across from the courthouse. Bring proof of who you are. I'll bring proof of who she is." He stood, then looked down at Amara. "Say goodbye." Amara hugged Celeste with the kind of trust grown from very little evidence. "You smell like fancy apples," the girl said. She stepped back and lowered her voice. "I dream about a room full of light. It's loud, then quiet. I always wake up before I see her face." Celeste's throat burned. "We'll talk tomorrow." Deshaun nodded once, wary again. He took Amara's hand. They walked toward Hill, past the food trucks, past the officers, into the night. Celeste stood alone at the fountain while the park lights hummed. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One line of text. "Stop asking questions.
7C.
Celeste didn't sleep. She watched the 110 crawl past her building until cabs thinned to a whisper. At 4, she unlocked the condo safe. Inside the white box lay the second turquoise stone, identical to Amara's. Beside it, an ultrasound, a hospital bracelet cut and taped, and a photo of a bracelet with, if found, choose love, scribbled in the margin like a dare against the universe. At 8:52 a.m., she pushed open the door to Scout Coffee. The place smelled like cinnamon and fresh grind. Deshawn was already there, sitting at a table by the window, Amara balancing a chocolate chip muffin like a crown. A Kindle lay next to their cups. Celeste slid into the chair opposite. She set her white box on the table and opened the lid. Deshawn stared at the twin turquoise, then at the red thread, then at Celeste's face. Amara leaned forward. "We match?" Celeste nodded. "We do." Deshawn exhaled, shoulders loosening just enough to look like a man who hadn't slept either. He clicked the Kindle awake. A scanned PDF filled the screen. St. Gabriel Medical Center, neonatal intake record. Names were blacked out, but the timestamp and room number were visible. "Your text last night," Deshawn said. "I got the same one a year ago after rumors started that Monroe North was building a private wing. I didn't know what 7C was. The nurse, Ruth, vanished. Landlord said she moved. Mail piled up for months. I stopped asking. 7C isn't public. It's a controlled floor. My company funded advanced ventilators there after a grant, but I never authorized a private intake pipeline. We do R&D, not..." She bit back the rest. "Not whatever this is," Deshawn finished. A news alert lit up both their phones. Monroe North Labs surges on rumor of federal contract. A second alert. Anonymous tip alleges neonatal irregularities, St. Gabriel. Deshawn's posture shifted from wary to ready. "You're about to be famous for the wrong reason." Celeste's screen buzzed again. Lydia Crane. The name alone made her teeth clench. Celeste let it ring. It rang again. Then a text. "Board meeting, 3 p.m., Conference A, without your phone." Amara swung her legs. "What's 7C?" "It's a place with rules," Celeste said simply. Deshawn slid a folded photo across the table. A birthday snapshot in a cramped kitchen in Koreatown. Paper banner, 3 smiling faces, Amara, Deshawn, and a woman in scrubs, early 40s, brown hair in a tight bun. The woman's name was written on the back in looping letters, Ruth Delgado, RN. Celeste traced the ink with her thumb. The letters punched a memory she'd locked away. In a hospital corridor, 5 years earlier, someone in scrubs had gripped her fingers and whispered, "You have a say, honey. You always do." Celeste hadn't even seen the woman's face through the blur. "Are you sure Ruth is gone?" Celeste asked. "Mailbox dead. Hospital said she resigned. HR voicemail said they have no record. Neighbors think some lawyer told her to disappear." "How did you get the intake form?" Celeste asked. "Ruth left a flash drive and a box of holiday decorations. When I saw the 7C text last night, I pulled it out again." Celeste took a breath that didn't go all the way in. "I'm going to that board meeting, but first I'm going to St. Gabriel." "Why?" Deshawn asked. "To see 7C in daylight." Deshawn shook his head. "You're walking into a building where everyone knows your name and none of them want you to ask the questions you're about to ask." Celeste stood. "You asked me yesterday why I reacted like I wrote that note. I did. Whoever stole those years from me counted on my silence." She slid her card across the table. "If anyone comes for you, call my attorney. If I don't answer by 2, take Amara somewhere crowded and safe. Grand Central Market, The Grove, Santa Monica Pier at dusk, places with cameras." Deshawn watched her go, eyes narrowed like a man staring down a problem with no good options. Amara called after her, "You forgot to say if you're coming back." "I'll be back, this afternoon." "Promise?" the girl asked. She lifted the twin turquoise from the box and looped it once around her finger like thread on a spool. "Promise." As Celeste pushed open the cafe door, a man in navy suit stepped in, flashed a Department of Children and Family Services badge at Deshawn and said, "Mr. Carter, we need to talk about temporary custody." Security at St. Gabriel recognized Celeste immediately. The gold donor plaque with her name was 5 steps from the main desk. She asked for Unit 7C. The clerk blinked and pressed a button under the counter. An administrator in a silver blazer appeared within minutes. "Miss Monroe, how can we help?" "I want to see 7C. That unit is closed for maintenance." "Since when?" "Since this morning." Celeste smiled, without warmth. "Then I'd like to speak to whoever closed it." "You can't be on this floor unescorted," the woman said. "I paid for the ventilators that keep this floor running," Celeste replied. "Take me to your supervisor." A nurse at the far end of the hall watched the exchange. She was older, late 50s, a black woman with a bright lanyard and tired eyes. As Celeste was steered toward an office, the nurse angled her cart to block the door. "You're Celeste. You're the one with the billboard near LAX." Celeste nodded. The nurse's voice dropped. "You need the service stairs. Left of the vending machines, 2 flights. Door labeled 7C is supposed to be locked. It's not. 10 minutes before security cycles." Celeste met the nurse's gaze for half a heartbeat, then moved. The service corridor smelled like bleach and lemon. The 7C door clicked under her palm, but it opened. The unit was bright, cold, and nearly empty. A row of bassinets, unplugged monitors stacked like chessboards, and a desk against the wall with a drawer left ajar. Inside the drawer lay a folder labeled Consent, Alternate Placement. Top sheet, Monroe North Labs, Advisory Council Liaison, Lydia Crane. Below it, a consent form with a signature that looked like Celeste's. The swoop on the M was hers. The cross on the T was hers. But the date, 3 hours after she'd been under anesthesia, wasn't. She snapped photos. Her hand shook so hard the first 3 came out smeared. She braced her wrist, took more. On the bottom of the stack, a copier streak across a name, Delgado, R. Celeste slid the folder back into the drawer and stepped toward the exit, and heard footsteps. She tucked behind the med cart. 2 people entered, voices low, words clipped. Board meeting at 3. If she connects Delgado to Crane, we'll need outside counsel. Monroe is a liability now. When they left, Celeste slipped out, heart jamming. Her phone buzzed. Deshawn. "They just showed up at the coffee shop," he said, voice tight. 2 DCFS agents. They said an anonymous complaint claimed I'm unfit. A neighbor called me a scammer on Instagram Live while it was happening. Someone framed this to look like I'm running a play on you. "Get to Grand Central Market," Celeste said. "Stay under cameras. Buy a Dodger cap. Blend. I'll call a family attorney." "Miss Monroe," a voice said behind her. She pivoted. The older nurse stood in the hall, alone now, pocketing her phone like she'd just ended a call. "Unit 7C looks impressive when it's empty, less impressive when you're standing in it on the wrong night." "You know Ruth Delgado?" Celeste asked. The nurse nodded. "New. Past tense for now." She looked Celeste in the eye. "Ruth is my sister." Celeste's breath caught. "She told me what she was doing," the nurse said. "She told me about a girl with a bracelet and a note. She told me a board chair used hospital charity paperwork to move infants cleanly off the books, called it alternate placement. New word for the same old thing. Ruth kept a copy of everything. She wasn't stupid. If she's gone, it's because someone made sure going seemed smart." "Where is she?" Celeste asked. "Nowhere you can knock," the nurse said. "But there's a locker at Union Station. Coin-op. Key used to be at Miller's Laundromat on Figueroa taped under number 9. If it's still there, you're lucky. If it's not, you're late." Celeste squeezed the nurse's hand. "Why help me?" "Because I was here the night you were," the nurse said. "You were a kid with an IV and a pen and nobody on your side." She paused. "Go." Celeste went. By the time she reached Union Station, the echo under the vaulted ceiling turned each footfall into a metronome. The coin-op lockers were tucked near the bus bay. She found one with a scratched faceplate and a dented corner. Inside was a shoebox wrapped in grocery bag paper. Inside the shoebox, USB drives, a burner phone, and a note written in the same looping hand from the birthday photo. "If found, choose truth." The burner phone lit up on its own. A single text appeared. "If they take him, they take her. They'll call it an emergency hold. Meet 3 p.m., Conference A. Don't be late." Celeste looked at the flash drives. The folder names were dates. One was her birth date. Another, 4 years earlier, had a label she didn't understand. Monroe, Adoption Intake, 1989. She wasn't the only person in her family with a file. She might be the first. Conference A overlooked Bunker Hill, the skyline sharpening into focus as late lights slid across glass towers. The entire Monroe North board sat in a crescent around the table, press packets neatly stacked. Lydia Crane looked immaculate, the kind of woman who could make a hurricane stand still by lowering her voice. "Celeste," Lydia said, not smiling, "we're here to manage a crisis of perception." Celeste set the shoebox on the glossy wood. "Perception is a nice word for theft." Lydia didn't blink. "We gave at-risk infants a direct path to homes. The courts would have buried them in process. We streamlined compassion. By forging my name? By telling me my child died?" "You were in no position to parent," Lydia said. "We protected you and the company. One day you'd thank us." Celeste laughed once, a sound without humor. "There's a locker at Union Station that says otherwise." Lydia's gaze slid to the general counsel. "I'm not moved by anonymous trinkets." Celeste said, "Ruth Delgado isn't anonymous." Silence rippled across the table. "We have a plan," the counsel said. "We show voluntary step aside. We announce a federal contract. We cast this as a misunderstanding by a single disgruntled nurse. We donate to 3 child advocacy groups and call it alignment." A board member cleared his throat. "Optics, Lydia." Deshawn's text came in then. A photo. Amara between 2 DCFS agents at Grand Central Market, eyes wide above her fox. The caption, "Emergency hold. They say mom unknown. They won't believe me." Celeste's chest burned. "We're done," she said. She pulled a flash drive from the shoebox and slid it across the table. The label read 7C, Consent Packets Crane. "What is this?" Lydia asked, finally letting irritation show. "This is a decision. Mine." She turned to the board. "I'm stepping down as CEO." Murmurs. A chair scraped. She raised a hand. "Not because you told me to. Because I won't sign my name to a company that calls kidnapping alternate placement." The word hung there. Not legal jargon, not spin, a word people understood. "You're emotional," Lydia said, tightening her jaw. "We'll schedule another meeting after you sleep." Celeste looked at the window. A helicopter cut a line toward Dodger Stadium where a day game hummed. She felt every sleepless hour in her bones. She also felt a clarity that hadn't visited in years. "You told me I was adopted," Celeste said quietly. Heads turned. Lydia's fingers twitched on the armrest. "You told me the courts were a mess. You told me my birth mother signed the papers and never looked back." Lydia's eyes didn't move. "You didn't tell me there's a file in a locker with the word Monroe, Adoption Intake 1989 on it. You didn't tell me you were running this program long before my name was on a building. You didn't tell me my existence was proof of concept." A low sound moved through the room. Shock, anger, fear, take your pick. Lydia forced a smile that wobbled at the edges. "I did what was necessary." "For who? For the company or the children?" Lydia didn't answer. Celeste reached for the intercom and pressed a button. The door opened. A local reporter from KABC stepped in with a camera operator and 2 producers. The board erupted. Counsel stood so fast his chair toppled. "This is privileged," he barked. Celeste faced the lens. "This is personal." She spoke without teleprompter. "That little girl is my daughter. The system didn't fail us. People did. People in rooms like this one. I was told my child died. She didn't. I was told my story started in a courthouse. It started in a unit with a number." Her phone buzzed again. Deshawn. "At DCFS, they want proof of maternity. They're saying the necklace is irrelevant." Celeste looked into the camera. "My name is Celeste Monroe. If you were a parent who was told alternate placement was mercy, if your child disappeared behind paperwork and polite voices, meet me on the steps of Clara Shortridge Fultz Criminal Justice Center at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring what you have. I'll bring what I have. We'll tell the truth under the sun." The room erupted in competing sounds. Counsel's threats, reporters' questions, board members' pleas. Lydia stood, face pale with fury that had nowhere safe to land. "You just ended your career," Lydia hissed. Celeste slipped the twin turquoise from her pocket and looped it around her wrist. "I just started my life." She walked out. 2 hours later at DCFS on Wilshire, a caseworker named Peyton Ortiz looked at a stack of documents Celeste laid on the metal desk. Ultrasound, a cut bracelet, photos of 7C, consent packets with a forged signature, a sworn statement from the older nurse at St. Gabriel, a notarized letter from the family attorney promising immediate DNA. She read silently, then set down her pen. "We can fast-track a supervised reunification while we wait on DNA. There's precedent when fraud is alleged and documentation is this strong." Deshawn's shoulders dropped for the first time that day. He didn't smile. He just breathed like a man who'd been underwater for too long. Amara looked between them. "Does this mean we can get ice cream?" Peyton smiled. "It means you can get ice cream with a lot of rules." She slid forms across the desk. "Start signing." They left the building through a side door to avoid the cameras. On the sidewalk, Celeste hesitated, then faced Deshawn. "You were right," she said. "Somebody wanted this to look like a play. We'll be watched every step." Deshawn nodded. "I don't want a check. I want a child who doesn't flinch when someone asks a question." A car slowed at the curb. A hand held a phone out the window filming. The driver smirked. "Nice job, Monroe. Sell your kid to pump your stock?" He laughed and sped off. Celeste stared after him until the taillights vanished. "We'll win in public," she said. But the truth started private. They crossed to Milk and Honey on 6th and bought 3 scoops. Amara insisted on sprinkles for all. At a sidewalk table, the girl rolled the turquoise between her fingers. "My dream had a sound, like ocean in a shell. Does a hospital sound like that?" Deshawn answered softly. "Kind of." Celeste reached across the table, palm up. Amara placed the necklace in it, then placed her entire small hand over Celeste's. "Just for today?" Amara asked. "For today, and for every day the court gives us." The burner phone buzzed in Celeste's purse. A text from an unknown number. "If you read your own intake file, you'll see a second name on it. She didn't sign off. She never got the chance. Meet me at the Santa Monica Pier tomorrow at dusk. Ride number 3. Bring the stone. R.D." R.D. wasn't Ruth Delgado. It was a different R.D. Rosa Delgado, Ruth's mother, the woman who had fostered infants before the laws changed. The woman's signature appeared nowhere because, according to another file on another flash drive, she had died 2 days after Celeste was born. But now she was telling Celeste to meet at the pier. Was Rosa alive? Was the program older than Lydia? How many intake packets had names that never made it to a judge? How many 7C nights stood between truth and a waiting child? Amara licked a drip from her cone. "You're staring again," she said, matter-of-factly. "I'm thinking about tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Amara echoed, swinging her legs. "Just for one day?" Celeste squeezed her hand. "Just for one day. And then we ask for another."